Welcome to the English Boost podcast. So picture this. You're standing there, right in the middle of this bustling room,
Oh, I know this feeling.
right? You know the vocabulary, you completely understand the intricate grammar rules.
Yeah, if this were a written test, you'd score 100% easily.
Exactly, 100%. But then a real, living, breathing human being steps up and actually speaks to you.
And panic sets in.
Total panic.
Mm-mm.
In that split second, your mind just goes completely, utterly blank. It's like an empty room. The lights are off. Everyone is packed up. The doors are locked.
It's just you and the silence. And
Yeah.
I mean, the physiological response in that moment is intense,
Oh, absolutely.
Your heart rate spikes, your palms might sweat. Basically, your brain perceives a social threat, right? It floods your system with cortisol and completely shuts down access to your prefrontal cortex.
Which is, ironically, exactly where you process complex language.
Exactly. One second you're this capable speaker, and the next you're just cognitively paralyzed.
And you know what the absolute most frustrating part is?
The delay.
Yes. 5, maybe 10 minutes later, long after the person has already walked away, your brain suddenly powers back on.
And it delivers the absolute perfect, most eloquent sentence imaginable.
Just wonderful timing, truly. But, that universal agonizing feeling is exactly why we're here today. Okay, let's unpack this.
Let's do it.
The entire mission of our exploration today on the English Boost podcast is taking everything you already know from a textbook environment and, well, adapting it for the messy, unpredictable, fast-paced reality of actual human conversation.
Because, I mean, the central idea we're drawing from our sources today is that real life simply does not wait for you to construct the perfect, grammatically flawless sentence.
Right, it just keeps moving.
Keeps moving. So bridging that gap between your passive knowledge and your active real-time performance, that's what we need to focus on. It requires a completely different toolkit.
So let's start with the very first hurdle of any interaction, which is the opening.
The dreaded small talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Now, textbooks have drilled into us this classic exchange, right? Someone asks, "How are you?" Followed by the robotic, "I'm fine, thank you, and you."
Which, yes, is grammatically flawless, I guess.
But it feels incredibly robotic in the real world. Nobody actually talks like that.
No, they don't. And it feels robotic because it completely misunderstands the actual psychology of small talk.
How so?
Well, when someone says, "How's it going?" they aren't usually initiating a literal data transfer about your physical and mental well-being,
Right, they don't want your medical history.
Exactly. It's a social ping. It's almost like a bat using echolocation. They're just sending out a signal to establish safety, rapport, and like a shared reality.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, and what our sources call the tiny door concept is crucial here. Small talk is simply about leaving a tiny conceptual door open for the other person to walk through.
So if you just reply, "Good," you've effectively slammed that door shut.
You locked it and threw away the key.
It's like playing a game of tennis. Right?
Yeah.
And instead of hitting the ball back over the net, you just catch it, put it in your pocket, and stare at your opponent.
The game is instantly over. That's a great analogy.
But let me challenge this tiny door idea for a second. What if your reality is just incredibly mundane?
Like what?
Like, what if your entire week has consisted of waking up, staring at a spreadsheet for 10 hours, and going back to sleep? You can't exactly invent a fascinating, Hollywood anecdote.
Well, you don't need a cinematic anecdote. I mean, the beauty of the tiny door is that the detail can be incredibly mundane as long as it's specific.
Specific. Okay, give me an example.
So instead of just saying good, you say, "Pretty good, just got back from a really crowded gym." Or, "Not bad, but I'm honestly a little tired today."
Right.
Those tiny specific details give the other person a hook. They can ask about your workout or, commiserate about being tired. You're giving them conversational material to work with.
But wait, if I open an interaction by saying I'm tired, isn't that a violation of the unspoken rule of small talk?
You mean the rule that you always have to be positive?
Yeah. I thought the goal was to be perpetually upbeat. Doesn't mentioning fatigue just make me sound negative right out of the gate?
The sociolinguistics of this are actually really fascinating. A minor complaint like being tired or dealing with bad traffic is a recognized bonding mechanism.
Wait, really? Complaining is bonding?
In small doses, yes. By offering a tiny, relatable vulnerability, you're signaling to the other person that you trust them enough to drop the flawless facade.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah, it builds rapport much faster than pretending everything is absolutely perfect all the time.
I see the distinction. So it's a strategic vulnerability. But, even if you leave that tiny door open, there's always that moment we all dread. The silence.
Oh, the awkward silence.
You mention you're tired, they say, oh, me too, and then nothing. The script just ends. Suddenly, you're both staring at a plant in the corner of the room, pretending it's the most fascinating botanical specimen on Earth.
Right, counting the leaves.
Exactly. It just hangs there, creating this incredibly awkward atmosphere where everyone feels completely exposed and just uncomfortable.
And that discomfort causes people to panic. They feel this overwhelming responsibility to rescue the entire interaction by themselves.
Which makes it worse.
Way worse. But if we actually look at transcripts of natural native speaker conversations, they are full of pauses.
That's normal.
Completely.
Yeah.
People lose their train of thought, they get distracted. Real conversation is inherently messy. You don't have to fill every single second with words.
Okay, but when that agonizing silence hits and the panic starts rising anyway, what's the mechanical fix? Like, what do you actually do?
You pivot to shared context. You don't need to pull a random topic out of thin air. Just look at your immediate environment.
Like the room you're in.
Exactly. If you're at a gathering, just ask, so how do you know the host? If you're in a meeting room waiting for a presentation, ask, have you worked with this software before?
That's smart. It shifts the cognitive burden off of you and onto a shared reality.
Exactly. It lowers the stakes completely.
All right, so we've survived the opening. The small talk is functioning. But let's look at the next major trap our sources identify.
Getting lost in the speed.
Yes, the conversation gets going, the other person gets excited, they speed up, and suddenly you realize you have absolutely no idea what they just said.
This brings us to perhaps the most dangerous habit in language learning, the nod.
Oh no, the survival nod.
We all do it.
Where you just paste a smile on your face, you nod your head rhythmically and say, yeah, totally, while internally you are completely panicking.
Just desperately trying to rewind the audio in your head.
Exactly. Trying to figure out if they just asked you a direct question or not.
And the cognitive load of trying to translate what they said 3 sentences ago while simultaneously pretending to understand what they're saying right now, it's immense.
It's impossible.
It is, and it almost always ends in disaster. There's a brutal cautionary tale in our research about a professional in a high-stakes business meeting.
Oh, I remember this one.
Yeah, a colleague was explaining a really complex new logistical process. This professional lost the thread of the explanation at minute 2.
Minute 2 of how long?
A 10-minute presentation.
Oh my God.
She sat there for 8 solid minutes, nodding professionally, offering affirmative grunts, projecting complete comprehension, and then the presenter finished, turned directly to him in front of the entire room, and asked, so are you aligned with that rollout strategy?
That is a visceral nightmare. There is no recovery from that.
None.
You can't exactly say, could you repeat the last 8 minutes of my life? But I have to push back on the alternative here.
Okay, go ahead.
If you constantly stop a native speaker, especially a boss or a client, to ask them to repeat themselves, doesn't that undermine your authority? Doesn't it make you look incompetent?
Well, that fear of looking foolish is exactly why we nod. But let's examine what confidence actually looks like in a professional setting. Confident speakers don't hesitate. They don't pause out of this nervous fear of looking foolish. If they miss a crucial detail, they actively stop the conversation.
Because they need the information.
Right. They know that operating on bad information is far more damaging to their credibility than just asking a clarifying question.
So, assuming we bypass that fear, what is the actual phrasing? Because saying, I don't understand your English is terrible, and saying what is just too aggressive.
Yeah, don't say what. You want to use actionable, natural phrases that don't highlight a language deficit.
Like what?
If you literally didn't hear the words because they spoke too fast, you just say, sorry, I didn't quite catch that. It implies a simple audio glitch.
Oh, didn't catch that. I like that.
And if you heard the words, but the logic didn't connect, you say, I'm not sure I follow.
Wait, I'm not sure I follow. Doesn't that put the blame on me? Shouldn't I hold them accountable if they're explaining something poorly?
Well, think about it. If you say you aren't making sense, you're directly attacking their communication skills.
True. People hate that.
It instantly triggers their ego and makes them defensive.
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure I follow is actually a brilliant piece of conversational judo.
Conversational judo. I love that.
It absorbs the blame, which lowers their defenses and makes them feel safe. But it still forces them to reconstruct their explanation in a clearer way. It's highly effective.
That is incredibly strategic. And, we also need to talk about vague language. Our sources flag words like later as massive traps.
Oh, later is dangerous.
Right. If a manager says, I'll send that report over later, Later is just a black hole of meaning. Does it mean before lunch? Before midnight, next quarter?
Which is exactly why you have to actively clarify the timeline. And when you just ask them to make their meaning crystal clear right then and there, you're actually showing leadership.
How do you phrase it without sounding pushy?
You can simply ask, could you clarify what you mean by later today, just so I can plan my afternoon? See, you're framing your request for clarity as a benefit to your own productivity. It makes you look incredibly professional.
So we're no longer nodding, we're stopping the train and demanding clarity. But let's shift to a scenario where you don't even have the luxury of a conversation.
Okay.
You're at your desk, you're in a state of deep focus, and a colleague suddenly appears at your shoulder and says, "Hey, quick question."
The phrase quick question is almost never followed by an actual quick question.
Never. It is usually a complex demand disguised as a minor interruption.
Truly. And in a second language, you don't just need time to think of the answer. You need time to translate the question, formulate your opinion, translate it back into English, and check it for tone.
The pressure is immense.
It is. Let's look at the neuroscience of that pressure for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
When you're deeply focused on a task, your prefrontal cortex is locked in. When someone interrupts you, the brain needs significant time to task switch.
Add a second language to that.
Exactly. The cognitive friction is huge. The secret here is realizing you do not owe them an immediate answer. You just need a mechanism to buy time.
So what's the mechanism? How do we, put a pause button on a human being?
Our sources provide some incredibly smooth, deflecting phrases. You just tell them, I'm a little tied up right now. Can I get back to you in 10 minutes?
Tied up. I really like that idiom. It paints this picture of being physically restrained by your current workload, which kind of softens the rejection.
It does.
But what about social pressure? Because the workplace isn't the only minefield. The classic example from our notes is the Friday afternoon text message from a friend that just says, "Hey, are you free tomorrow?"
Oh, that is the ultimate conversational trap.
It really is.
Because if you enthusiastically say, yes, I am totally free, they reply with, fantastic, I need someone to help me move my grand piano up 3 flights of stairs.
Exactly. You have completely surrendered your leverage before you even know the terms of the deal.
You have to know the parameters before you commit. The safest response to, are you free, is something conditional.
Like what?
Like, I might have some time. What's up? It shows you're open to connection, but it protects your schedule.
Okay, so let's say they reveal the plan, and it's something great, like grabbing dinner at your favorite place you want to accept. Saying, "I will attend," sounds like you're responding to a court summons.
Yeah, please don't say, I will attend. A much more natural phrase to show enthusiasm is, count me in, or sounds great, I'm there.
But let's look at the flip side, which is the harder part. What if you're already emotionally committed to doing absolutely nothing all weekend?
A valid choice.
Right, you need to decline. But if you reply, "I cannot come," it feels incredibly harsh to native ears. Why is that? Grammatically, it's a perfectly correct negative statement.
It comes down to the difference between a rigid boundary and a fluid scheduling conflict. I cannot come sounds like a wall.
Too blunt.
Exactly. It lacks any emotional warmth. It implies, I am physically capable of being there, but I am choosing to reject you.
Ouch.
To decline softly while maintaining the relationship, you want to use a phrase like, I'd love to, but I don't think I can make it.
I don't think I can make it. That is so much better. It frames the rejection as an unfortunate logistical failure rather than a personal choice.
Right. You and the other person are on the same side, united against the cruel realities of scheduling.
Precisely. It's all about preserving the social fabric. And this concept of softening your language applies heavily to sharing opinions and disagreeing too.
Disagreeing in a second language is terrifying.
It's so easy to accidentally sound aggressive. If someone says, "I think we should launch this product next week," and you know that is a terrible idea, how do you stop them without starting a fight?
Well, the instinct is to say, I disagree, or worse, you are wrong.
Right, which never goes well.
Never. Interesting, productive conversations rely on curiosity, not combat. You have to validate their perspective before you introduce your own.
How does that sound in practice?
You say something like, that's a fair point, but I look at it a little differently. Or, I see what you mean, but have we considered the risks?
You're acknowledging their reality before offering your own. Although our sources did note one very specific, non-negotiable exception to this rule of gentle disagreement.
Oh yes, the pizza rule.
Yes, if someone suggests putting pineapple on a pizza, the sources are adamant that a hard, aggressive no is the only valid response.
Some boundaries must be defended at all costs.
Absolutely. But jokes aside, this highlights a critical context. It's all about what's appropriate for the setting. You have to use language that actually fits the specific social context and the relationship you have with that person.
Context dictates everything. You might greet your closest friend by saying, "Yo, what's up?"
Sure.
But if you walk into a high-stakes performance review and say, "Yo, what's up?" to the CEO, that is entirely inappropriate. You've completely misread the power dynamic and the formality of the room.
And the reverse is equally dangerous, right? If a close colleague is having a personal crisis, they're visibly upset, and you approach them and say, "I acknowledge your difficulties," you sound like a sociopath.
Yes, completely emotionally bankrupt.
It's technically polite, but totally wrong. The appropriate response is just a quiet, "Hey, are you okay?"
Exactly. But notice how all of these strategies, the tiny doors, reading the room, softening the disagreements, they all rely heavily on visual feedback.
Right, you're watching their face.
You're watching their face to see if they understand, looking at their body language to gauge their mood.
Which brings us to the digital minefield. What happens when you strip all of those crucial visual cues away? We really need to talk about phone calls.
Phone calls are often cited as the #1 source of anxiety for language learners.
Oh, without a doubt.
You're essentially flying blind. You're relying entirely on audio, which is usually compressed, stripping out the subtle vocal frequencies we use to detect emotion.
It's terrifying. So how do we regain some control over a phone call?
First, you dictate the terms of engagement right in the start. When they answer, always ask, "Is now a good time?"
That's a good habit.
It's a polite way to ensure you actually have their undivided attention, rather than trying to explain something while they're wrestling with a screaming toddler in the background.
And what about when the technology itself betrays you? Which, let's be honest, it always does.
You need a mental script ready for technical failures so you don't panic. If the audio's chopping up, you don't say, "Your voice is bad."
No, definitely not.
You use the standard phrasing, "You're breaking up a bit."
And if the call drops entirely when you call them back, you say, "Sorry, I got disconnected," or "Sorry, I lost you."
Yes, perfect.
Which, by the way, leads to the absolute funniest anecdote in our source material. This perfectly illustrates the danger of literal translation.
Oh, the parking garage story.
Yes. Okay, so a professional is on a phone call while driving. He drives into a concrete parking garage, and predictably, the signal dies.
Happens all the time.
Right. He parks, walks out, gets his signal back, and calls the client. But in his panic to explain why he hung up, he literally translates his situation from his native language and blurts out, "I am so sorry I went underground."
Which is just an incredible sentence.
It really is.
Semantically, it means he traveled beneath the surface of the earth. But idiomatically, going underground means you're a fugitive hiding from the government.
Exactly. It makes him sound like a secret agent on the run from the CIA.
It is so mysterious, and it completely derails the professional vibe of the call. "I lost signal in the garage" would have saved a lot of confusion. It's just brilliant. But, phone calls at least give you a tone of voice. Texting removes even that. Texting is its own unique psychological challenge because of how the human brain processes missing information.
There's a well-documented phenomenon here called the negativity bias.
Yeah.
When the brain receives ambiguous information without visual or vocal context, it evolutionarily defaults to assuming a threat. This is why a single-word text message can cause so much anxiety. Right. If I send you a long, thoughtful message outlining a plan for a project, and you reply 2 hours later with just the word "okay" accompanied by a period,
Yeah.
my brain immediately goes into overdrive. Is that an angry "okay"? Is it a dismiss? Okay. Are you furious with me? One word, maximum drama.
Because the period at the end of a one-word text often reads as a tone of finality or aggression.
So what's the strategy?
It's incredibly simple. Explicitly add warmth. You have to overcompensate for the lack of visual cues. Just add a couple of words to clarify the emotional tone.
So instead of a flat, "Okay, what do we type?"
"Okay, sounds good," or "Yep, that works perfectly." By adding those extra few syllables, you're providing the emotional context that would normally be conveyed by a smile or a nod in person.
And if you're the one replying hours later, you don't need to write a 3-paragraph essay apologizing and detailing your every movement, right?
No, please don't do that.
You just reuse the deflecting phrase from earlier in our session. "Sorry, I was tied up earlier." Yes, that works for me.
Exactly. It explains the delay, lowers the friction, and moves the conversation forward.
But of course, no matter how perfectly you manage your tone, whether you're texting, on the phone, or standing face-to-face, eventually the system will break down.
Inevitably, you will face a genuine breakdown in communication.
Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
Fixing the glitches. Because miscommunications are not just a language learner problem. They happen to native speakers constantly.
All the time.
There's a fantastic story in our notes that perfectly captures this. Two friends decide to meet for dinner. They agree to meet at a restaurant. Let's call it the Golden Spoon.
Okay.
They both get in their cars, drive to the restaurant, walk through the front doors, and text each other, "Hey, I'm here."
And the other replies, "Me too, where are you?"
So they start looking around. They can't see each other. They get on the phone. One says, "I'm sitting by the big window in the front." The other says, "I'm standing right by the host stand. There is no window." They start describing the wallpaper, the lighting. And slowly, agonizingly, they realize the truth. There are two restaurants named the Golden Spoon in completely different neighborhoods.
They spent 20 minutes arguing over the interior design of two different buildings.
Yes.
It's a textbook misunderstanding where two people look at the exact same piece of information but build completely different realities in their heads.
The illusion of transparent communication.
Exactly. They both assumed the other person had the same golden spoon in mind, and neither of them clarified the actual street address.
So when the illusion shatters and you realize you're sitting across town from your friend, how do you fix it without it turning into a massive argument about whose fault it was?
You bypass the blame game entirely and take accountability. You don't need to fall to your knees and beg for forgiveness.
Right, keep it simple.
Just say, "Oh man, sorry, that was my fault," or "Ah, I completely misunderstood." Taking ownership of the glitch instantly diffuses the tension. The ego is removed from the situation.
And what if you are the person who was waiting at the correct restaurant and your friend finally arrives, sweating and apologizing profusely? How do you let them off the hook?
You have to reassure them, actively make them feel safe and less worried about the mistake. You just wave it off and say, "No worries, it happens to the best of us."
Or simply, don't worry about it.
Yeah, it instantly makes the situation feel lighter.
No worries is arguably the most powerful phrase in conversational English. It acts like a pressure release valve.
It really does.
But what about fixing a glitch with a stranger where there's a service dynamic? Say you're at a cafe, you ordered a green tea, and the server brings you a black coffee. The natural instinct, especially when you're stressed in a second language, is to be incredibly direct and say, "This is wrong, I ordered tea."
Which, according to politeness theory, is a direct attack on their competence.
Right.
It forces them to lose face. Even if they are objectively wrong, attacking them creates friction. You can achieve the exact same result getting your tea with soft, polite clarity.
How do we frame it gently?
You introduce an element of doubt, even if you are certain.
Okay, give me an example.
You say, "Sorry, I think this might be someone else's order." Or, "Excuse me, I actually ordered the green tea," by saying, "I think this might be." You give them a way out.
Ah, that's clever.
They can say, "Oh, my mistake, let me grab that for you." And the problem is solved collaboratively without any drama.
It's conversational grace. And if we zoom out and connect all of these pieces, leaving the tiny doors open, actively clarifying instead of nodding, buying time when put on the spot, softening our rejections, and politely repairing the inevitable glitches, it really challenges the conventional definition of what it means to be fluent.
It entirely redefines it. I mean, the traditional academic view is that fluency means possessing a massive encyclopedic vocabulary.
Right, like knowing every word in the dictionary.
Exactly, and having the ability to construct incredibly complex, poetic sentences in real time. But the reality is, while you are digging through your mental dictionary for that one perfect, impressive word, the actual conversation is leaving you behind.
Right. It is exactly the scenario we started with. By the time you assemble the perfect grammatical structure, the person is already in their car driving home.
True fluency, according to the underlying philosophy of all our source material today, is functional. It's about trusting the English you already possess.
I love that. Trusting what you already have.
It's the ability to use small, unglamorous, highly effective phrases to keep the momentum of life moving forward.
So it's more about navigation than perfection.
Exactly. If you don't understand, you confidently ask for clarification. If you need a minute to think, you say, "Let me check on that." If you make a mistake, you own it, correct it, and move on. Fluency is the successful communication of your core intent, not the achievement of absolute grammatical perfection.
That is an incredibly freeing perspective. It means that you, the listeners, already have the tools you need. You just need to deploy them differently.
Precisely.
So, to synthesize our exploration today, everyday English is built on managing these micro-interactions. It's giving someone a tiny detail to latch onto when they ask how you are. It's having the courage to stop a meeting and clarify a vague timeline.
Right.
It's knowing how to say, I don't think I can make it, instead of
yeah.
building a conversational wall.
And as we wrap up, I'd like to leave you with a final thought to chew on regarding how we view ourselves in these interactions.
Let's hear it.
We spend so much energy obsessing over our limited vocabulary or feeling self-conscious about our accents. But what if the biggest barrier to actual fluency isn't a lack of linguistic knowledge at all?
What else could it be?
What if it's our own perfectionism? What if, in our absolute paralyzing obsession to not make a single grammatical mistake, we are actually denying the other person the chance to simply connect with us, flaws, glitches, and all?
Wow. Are we deliberately blocking human connection just to protect our own egos? That is a profound question to walk away with. I strongly encourage you to take just one concept or even just one specific phrase we unpacked in this session and actively try it out this week.
Leave a tiny door open.
Yeah, leave a tiny door open or stop someone and ask them to clarify. Just try one. Because maybe the next time someone approaches you in the real world, the lights in that mental room will stay on, the cortisol won't spike, and you won't have to wait 10 minutes for your brain to finally show up to the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us on this exploration, and we will catch you next time.